Hi, here's a video no one asked for, but when I was pregnant for the first time and deciding on a hospital to deliver at, I was looking for information like that, so hopefully this will help you make a more informed choice. For context, I am Singaporean and I do contribute to MediSave. I had the most average, medically unremarkable pregnancy. I conceived naturally and had no prenatal conditions like preeclampsia, gestational diabetes. As my partner said, you must be the most uninteresting patient to your doctor. And that's perfect. I also already knew what I wanted for my birth, which was to deliver naturally with epidural. So I gave birth in KKH at the end of June in 2025. In choosing KKH, some of the considerations were that we were told if you were in a private hospital and an emergency does happen that the hospital is ill-equipped to handle, you would still be transferred to a public hospital. We haven't verified this, but that did, factor into our considerations. Slightly contrary to popular opinion also was, I wanted a lot of doctors looking at my file, not just one doctor. Might be a mistaken belief, but I thought more eyes looking at the same file, perhaps fewer blind spots. And a major consideration on most people's minds is cost. So having asked around friends who had the same natural delivery with epidural and a total hospitalization stay of 2 days, our small sample size showed that in 2019, giving birth at Mount Alvernia would have cost you $7,400 out of pocket. 2021, giving birth at Alright. Let's try this again. A major factor on most people's minds would be cost. Delivery at Mount Alvernia would cost you about $7,400 out of pocket. In 2021, giving birth at Parkway Hospital would cost you $7,300 approximately. And in 2023, giving birth at Thomson Medical would have cost you about $8,750 out of pocket. My eventual bill from KKH for a Class A ward was $4,250, and all these numbers take into account the maximum MediSave deduction, so these are all cash out of pocket. In general, giving birth at a public hospital would be cheaper than delivering at a private hospital, even if you choose a private ward in a public hospital. And this is just the delivery cost. It doesn't take into account the antenatal expenses like your consultations, your medications, your tests, so the costs do add up. While KKH is a public hospital, there are two routes available. The first is a subsidized public route and the second is a private patient route. If you are a bit picky but still cost conscious, it is possible to be both throughout the course of one pregnancy, and that's what we chose. To be eligible for subsidies, you need a polyclinic referral to KKH. Being in the subsidized route does mean slightly longer waiting periods, but the standard of care is the same regardless if you're a subsidized patient or a private patient. The online queue on the Health Buddy app is helpful. This is where you can join the queue before you're physically at the hospital so that you have a shorter waiting time. But there is a catch. Most routine tests require you to take your statistics, your measurements, like your BMI, your blood pressure, before you see the doctor. So the real queue only starts after you've taken your statistics at the hospital. There's no real point in joining an online queue before you reach the hospital. We thought going very early in the morning before working hours would be helpful in cutting down the waiting period, but every other working parent-to-be has the same idea. So mix it up a little bit if you are going for the subsidized route. Sometimes go immediately after lunch and you may have a shorter queue or no waiting time at all. A routine doctor visit would first start with you taking your height and weight, which then gives you your BMI, then taking your blood pressure, doing a P test, then you see your doctor for a consultation. If you have any ultrasounds, you would do that as well. Not every consultation comes with an ultrasound for the subsidized route. Yes, you do get that for private patients. And of course, once you're done with that, go to the pharmacy, get your medication and supplements. Payment can be made online after you leave the hospital. We originally wanted to switch from the subsidized route to the private patient route at my very last consultation. But then I freaked myself out reading reviews about how people didn't like their gynae, so we decided to make the switch earlier. But it turns out we didn't need to. I love my gynae, Dr. Serene Tien. She's very to the point. She's not going to mollycoddle you. She'll only tell you what you need to know for your case. No extraneous options that would, send you into a bit of a panic. So knowing yourself and knowing what you want from your gynae is quite important. If you want a gynae who's very practical, who's very to the point, Dr. Serene Tien is great. After we made the switch, we realized the real cost difference between the subsidized patient route and the private patient route is the consultation fee. As a subsidized patient, our consultations were $74. As a private patient, the first consultation was $175. Thereafter, repeated consultations were $133 approximately. Medication, tests, these things are about the same for both private patient and subsidized patients. At my 38-week visit, Dr. Tien gave us the option to be induced and we took it. There was no urgent medical reason to do so. I was just very, very uncomfortable. And since there were no major medical risk, we decided why not. What I like about induction was choice. And with that, the ability to plan. We could come home, get the house ready, do the final preparations for the delivery bag, figure out how we were going to tell people, when we were going to tell people, plan a bit of our leave schedules, then be admitted to the hospital to be induced. Of course, I could have gone into labor before I was scheduled to be induced, but it was less than 24 hours and it turned out fine. The next thing that I really liked about induction was having a professional opinion when I'm at my most vulnerable. Since I'll be going through all stages of labor at the hospital, I thought I would be able to get pain relief whenever I needed it. But more on that later. So we arrived at KKH at 8:30 a.m., completed the admission process very smoothly, calmly, without any pain. And that was a very big factor for me because you see all the other patients coming through. Some of them are uncomfortable, some of them are in pain, some of them are even crying. And I think that contributes to the trauma of birth. So wherever we could introduce a moment of calm into my birth experience, we took the opportunity. By 9:30 a.m., I was in triage. This is when I realized only patients can be admitted to triage. Partners are not allowed in, so you will be alone for that period of time. At 11, I was induced, and after a period of monitoring, they sent me up to my ward and I had my lunch there. We chose to be admitted to a Class A ward. What you're provided with are all your meals, and there are a lot of options as well. You can choose different options for different meals. Milo and soda crackers are on demand, which is really nice. In the Class A ward, you will also get your own private bathroom. If you are in any other ward class, you will share a bathroom with other patients. All your amenities, from your wet wipes, baby wipes, diapers, pee pads, Epicool sticks, everything you need really is provided by the hospital. What you really need to bring are things for your partner and also clothes for you and your baby to go home in. The option to have a lactation consultant visit your ward is also provided by the hospital. And lastly, they also ask you if you want to breastfeed exclusively, supplement with formula, or go fully formula, and the team will support whatever decision you make. Post-hospitalization, KKH also provides you with a goodie bag. Inside you have got sample diapers, shower gels for baby, some vouchers, and it all comes in a nice diaper backpack. Things that you're not provided with would be other ways of giving birth. For example, if you wanted a water birth, they would not have a tub to support that. We didn't ask, but I'm pretty sure gym balls, sound systems, these frills that might support you in your birth experience are also not provided. Other things that the hospital doesn't really support or provide would be a birth plan. So if you're very particular about how you want your birth to go, you can tell your gynae your preferences, but it's KKH. They have been delivering babies since forever. So you're going to deliver, it's going to be fine, but it's going to be on the SOP. Things that I didn't realize until I was admitted was that you would be alone in triage. No one else is permitted to join you. Your partner can join you when you're in the delivery suite or when you're in your ward, but not in triage. So that can be quite isolating and a little bit scary if you don't know what to expect. I also didn't realize that this was an option. I'm not sure if this is specific to Class A, but they do recommend that baby room in with you. This is the alternative to having the baby stay in the nursery after birth. And it's been really great because you hear your baby cry, pick up your baby, learn your baby's cues, and you get to bond with your baby. because they have helped so many women. Everything is very systematic and they're very confident. Everyone there is very confident about what they're doing, which gave me a lot of reassurance as a first-time mom. They let you stay an extra day in the hospital if you feel like you need the help. But there's a flip side to this. At the hospital, someone is coming in every other hour, either to check up on you, check up on the baby, ask for your preferences. So it's not very possible to get sleep for more than an hour or so. Of course, if you have a fussy baby, that's going to be the same when you go home. They also don't give you too many options such that you freak out. If you're par for the course, they will just tell you exactly what you need to know and you're on your way. Dr. Serene Tian's calm in the delivery suite was very much appreciated. When things were not progressing as smoothly, she gave me the option to have the baby vacuum out or be delivered with forceps. She explained the differences very calmly. And in the afterbirth process, the stitching and everything, I did not experience any discomfort at all. And I healed very well. So I also have to thank Dr. Jason Chan for doing my epidural. Once the numbing medicine went in, I felt nothing. I only knew the epidural was done when I suddenly stopped feeling any pain and he said, "You're done." It was like magic. What I didn't love so much about KKH was that, it's still a public hospital. So triage and delivery suite are available on a first come first serve basis. Even if you are admitted as a patient, you are still subject to this first come first serve queue. In the end, I didn't get pain relief when I wanted it because both triage and the delivery suite were full. So that was a bit unfortunate. You also can't be in a rush if the doctor on call suddenly has an emergency to attend to. All of their routine consultations are put on hold. You also don't get transferred to another doctor on call because they also have their long list of patients to see. So you're really just waiting at the hospital for the emergency to be attended to before you can get your consult. Consultations are also only on weekdays. If you are working a 9 to 5 job that requires you to be strictly in the office, that might be quite tricky. But if you have some flexibility, going for the subsidized route is great. Even as a private patient in a public hospital, I do not have direct access to my gynae. I have to first contact the hospital and then they contact my gynae. Calling their hotline is also a bit finicky because chances of you calling at the peak period is quite high. You may not reach an operator. So if you really need urgent medical attention, you can head down to urgent care. But otherwise, you have to wait till your next consultation or until you can get the operator on the line. And even after that, there is a waiting time before they reach your doctor and your doctor replies. If I had a do-over, I would still choose KKH knowing what I know now. But things that I would have done differently would be ask for pain relief before I'm desperate for it. I would have admitted myself at midnight rather than at 8:30 a.m. So the clock starts earlier because the induction medication does take some time to take effect. And while you're waiting, you might as well get a full night's sleep in. And this sums up my experience choosing KKH. I hope this helps someone, even if it's just one new mom, make a more informed choice.